Hi all, Simon Pimenta here. In the last video I talked about the principles of neuroplasticity, that is the ability of the brain to grow with use. In this video I want to talk about the application of those principles and the relevance of neuroplasticity to the issues that you are facing. So let's imagine that we are faced with a stimulus. That stimulus could be being stuck in traffic, could be how we respond to a symptom. I remember working with a client who had a social phobia, so they would get very anxious whenever they thought about having to talk to people. So that stimulus is going to cause a signal to travel along a neuron. So for someone who generates frustration every time they get stuck in traffic, that response has become conditioned. So that signal is going to travel to this neuron and they will generate frustration and irritation. Now, when I had MECFS, I was constantly activating the sympathetic nervous system. I would think, is this going to make me worse if I eat certain foods, if I exercise, if I socialize? I remember even one time after I'd started learning brain training techniques and I decided to train to become a practitioner, about 2 weeks before the course I had a major panic. I was panicking constantly for 2 weeks. I was panicking because I wasn't fully well and I did wonder whether this was going to be too much, and I was having to use the tools I'd learned to calm my physiology. I remember one night waking up in the middle of the night completely relaxed, and as soon as I remembered that I was worrying about whether I was ready to do this course, which was going to cost quite a lot of money, whether it would make me worse. So in a split second, I managed to generate those feelings of anxiety. And I managed to generate complete tension in my body in literally a nanosecond. This made me realize how powerful my mind was. We know that if we keep going down a pathway, then there are going to be changes in the brain. The neurons that are being used will move closer together and the pathway gets thicker, stronger, and therefore faster. So now we can generate those responses really quickly. And the pathway that we stop using actually moves away and it actually gets thinner. So if we keep using certain pathways, then those connections in the brain get stronger and faster, take up more space. And if we're not using other pathways, they shrink and actually can even disappear. What's interesting is that the neuron can be activated without the stimulus being present. So for example, if someone's thinking about being stuck in traffic, they can generate those feelings of frustration without being there in the situation. When I had MECFS, just thinking about doing an activity would sometimes make me tired. I remember there was someone in my life who I did find challenging because they were saying to me, oh, you're not doing it right, you should just take Prozac. And I knew Prozac wasn't the answer. We'd get into arguments. I remember friends saying to me, how's things with that person? And in a nanosecond, my energy drained out of me. And they actually noticed, they said, what's happened? And I said, oh, I just feel really overwhelmed and exhausted. Now, what I came to understand is just the thought of that person generated those feelings of overwhelm within me. And as I say, I was able to generate those feelings in a split second. So there is this idea that certain triggers can result in conditioned responses. For example, if someone has a noisy neighbour, just the slightest noise can trigger a big sympathetic response in that person. And we also think that sensitivities can become conditioned. So if someone develops a sensitivity to a certain smell, then that can trigger a response. There's a fascinating example of a woman who had an allergy to roses. A doctor showed her a plastic rose and she had an allergic response. So consider what that tells us about how the brain works. Now, the good news is the brain has the capacity for neuroplasticity. The brain grows with use. The brain is making about 1 million connections every second, and we can influence some of those connections that are being made. As conscious human beings, we have choice. We can consciously change our responses. Can take a bit of effort, but for example, if someone is stuck in traffic and they recognize that they have a choice, they could generate calm and patience instead of frustration. If they practice that, then over time that will become easier to generate. If they keep doing that, then something interesting happens, as we've already discussed. The neuron will start to get thicker, and the neuron that we're not using will start to atrophy. If we keep doing that, then the neurons will move position. The pathway that we're using will get closer to the stimulus neuron. So we can consciously change our responses. Whatever we practice, we get good at. If we practice more useful responses, then they can become the default. If we keep practicing the sympathetic pathway, we get better at that, and that hinders our body's healing. If we practice the parasympathetic nervous system pathway, then that's putting the body in a healing state. And as we said already, the neurons get thicker, and therefore we can generate that response more quickly. And just as in the same way, we can generate a response without the stimulus being present. So for example, if you are lying on the beach and you enjoy lying on the beach, then you will generate feelings of calm. If you think about lying on the beach and imagine it as if you're there, seeing the colours, hearing the sounds, feeling the physical sensations, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the contact between your body and the sun lounger, then you're getting yourself into that nice state. So if I think about doing exercise and I actually tell myself that there's no tiger in the situation, I am safe, I can just do it slowly, I can go at my own pace, I can practice getting into a relaxed state before I do that exercise. If I practice feeling happy, relaxed, even if I've got symptoms, trusting that they will pass, if I approach things in a more light-hearted manner and keep practicing that, then I'm activating the parasympathetic response. And that's what happened when I was generating panic about doing this course. It was as if I caught myself flicking a switch from calm to stressed, and I managed to stop myself from doing that, and I managed to get my body into a calm state. And actually I decided to actually trust in my decision making. I decided to trust that I was making decisions that would be good for me, which meant by the time I started the course, I actually felt calm. Clients have said that they find listening to a piece of music puts them in a relaxed state or a playful state. There's a track that I listen to by Christine and the Queens called Tilted, and every time I listen to it I can't help but dance like a lunatic in the kitchen. So I mentioned a person who I found challenging. One of the things I would do is I would ask myself the question, what age would I put on their behaviour? I decided that their behaviour was like a teenager. It was as if their view was the most important one, and any view that wasn't in alignment with their view was wrong. So by doing that, I imagined them dressed as a teenager and behaving in that way. And by doing that, I started to just feel more relaxed about their behaviour. And actually I did also say to them, look, I'm not going to discuss this with you anymore. And so by doing that, I was able to just generate more calm in my physiology. So as I say, we can generate a response without the stimulus being present. We can also use a mindful approach. Mindful approach recognizes that we can either be in an emotion, let's say someone's generating anger. So if we're stepping into the anger, we are exercising that neural pathway. However, if we use a mindful approach by just observing the emotion, then what we're doing is we're stepping out of that emotion and we're more able to just calmly observe the thinking that's going on. And by doing that, the strength of the emotion can actually diminish. So we'll explore these concepts and their application in the Building Resilience training. So I hope that's given you some food for thought. If you've got any comments, do post below. I am going to be working with a small group of people over the next few weeks to help them get momentum and clarity by Christmas. If you'd like to know more, post the word Christmas below and I will send you the details. Thanks for watching, wishing you great health. Bye for now.